This is the story of the death of Mr. Black. It began as all gruesome tales do. It was a dark and stormy night. Mr. Black believed, out of stupidity or spite, we'll never know, that it would be an excellent idea to invite 6 of his most singular, colorful past acquaintances to an elegant weekend filled with luxury in the lush Black Manor. Mrs. Peacock, striving to get ahead, arrived her usual 3 minutes and 27 seconds early. The poor woman had lost 9 dear, dear husbands tragically in the past 10 years. Thankfully, she was left to dry her tears with their fabulous fortunes. Now the grieving dowager searches for one more strong man to share his life with her. Colonel Mustard, arriving in punctual military fashion, was the next to appear. A commander during the British occupation of Egypt, he purchased his commission with a small fortune procured in the archaeological excavations business. Despite the rugged gentleman's exterior, he found it necessary to speak of his many, many extravagant military exploits. Next to enter was Mustard's traveling companion, Mr. Green. The 2 dear friends had traveled together since the days of Mustard's illustrious career. They met during the war, fighting on opposite sides, of course. The 2 seemed to understand each other perfectly, despite Green's angry, incoherent German tendencies. Miss Scarlet, ever the dramatic, arrived fashionably late, as always. Her opulent lifestyle drastically outpaced London's appreciation of her theatrical talents. Despite her passion for the arts, her greatest talent of all was to ensnare handsome men with heavy wallets. Operating on his own time, Professor Plum slipped in last. Barely noticeable, the man quickly found a perch where he could survey the other guests. Recently selected by the government to make lucrative scientific inquiries, Plum had mysteriously been let go days prior due to his, quote, questionable ethics. And finally, the housekeeper, Mrs. White, practically the image of hospitality, received the guests. She remained Mr. Black's faithful employee of over 20 years, ever watchful of her employer and his fortune. The previous servants, in spite of Mrs. White's dazzling personality, were all driven away years ago, labeling her a strict and sinister woman with an explosive temper. Now the house was empty, save for Black and White.
Black is dead. Everyone, please remain on the premises until the murderer in our midst has been caught and stopped. But please, enjoy yourselves.
Mrs. Peacock, with the revolver, in the study.
Master, darling, tell me about your medals. Those hippopotami you saved so interest me.
I know your games, by Jove! Too many dead old men's corpses to be left as a coincidence.
Well, I am in grief.
Ah!
Colonel Mustard in the billiard room with a rope.
Hit them!
Miss White, in the kitchen with the wrench.
I never did trust no foreigners.
Mr. Green, with the lead pipe, in the lounge. I always did find foreigners ever so sophisticated and exotic. Your accent is simply Monsieur Monafille. You are ever so dashing and excellent.
Ich bin schrecklich und prügig! Geh weg, du schreckliche Frau!
Right, no need to shout. I'm not fluent in Icelandic, you know.
Frau Scarlett mit der Messer in Baltimore.
Professor Plum with the candlestick in the library.
I firmly believe in your acute powers of comprehension. However, I desire to bring to your cognizance the awareness of the lethal armament concealed in Madame Peacock's reticule.
No, sir, that's not fair. I just want us to have a peaceable meal, and all you could do is fight. Please, let's be civilized.
I do want to bring to your awareness, though, that Colonel Mustard...
Are you serious, woman? First I call me, then I'm accused of such monstrosities of anything as this is one. What? Not even around. We all know why you're here. We all know why we're all here. It's all his money.
All right. Who really did it?
Who really did it? Ah, that is the question. My foolish and fickle enemies never guess the truth. And so you see, I got away, and none of them ever got the hands on the money. But what I told you in the beginning really was true, for Mr. Black did die. But Jacob Snell lives on. You'll never find me or the money because they never got the final clue.
I'm late for the party.